All righty. And can you all see the the presentation? Is it looking good? Okay.
Looks good.
All right. So welcome everybody. This is the grant workshop for the Lincoln County Community and Community Development and Economic Development Grant Program for 2025-2026. We are so glad you are here, and it always is exciting uh, for us to see a lot of people in this workshop. It means a lot of people are going to apply to these grants. Quick question to you, Sarah. Can you see people who need to be admitted?
I cannot.
All right, well let me hop back in to make sure that I am not leaving anyone stranded. Okay, I think we're good. All right. All right, we'll get back into it. So we're not going to do introductions of everybody in the room here, just because we have a ton of folks, but we'll quickly introduce ourselves. Our collective organization is the Economic Development Alliance of Lincoln County. We are a 501(c)(6) independent nonprofit economic development organization serving all of Lincoln County, and our organization has administered this grant program coming from the Lincoln County Economic Development Fund account for the last 20 years. Um, and we're glad to be here. My name's Paul Skidema. I'm the executive director of EDALC. And Sarah, why
I'm
don't you
Sarah
introduce
Budding.
yourself?
Yep, I'm Sarah Budding, and I've been with EDALC about 4 years now. And I am the Rural Economic Research and Engagement Manager. But if you can't remember that long title, you can just call me the REREM here. But thanks, you all. Thanks for coming.
All right. And let's just get right into this. Um, the agenda that we're going to go over, and one thing that's kind of important to point out is our EDALC staff is here to help you today and also after this session to put together the best applications possible. Our board of directors scores the grants. Our staff has no vote in the scoring of the grants. Um, But I just wanted to let you know we're here as an advocate for you. Today we're going to look at eligibility and a little bit of the rules overview. The rules change a little bit from year to year, but not that much. We'll kind of go over the timeline. We'll talk about the difference between impact grants and standard grants, kind of go over the scoring review and what things to maybe emphasize a little bit in your application. Uh, some grant application tips. We've got a lot of documents that we're going to be able to throw those links in the chat a little bit later on. And we'll give you some tips for applying, and then we'll have some time for some Q&A. And we're going to start off with diving in and, whoopsie, looking at some of the rules. Um, so this is a long-standing grant program funded from transient lodging tax and video game income dollars going into the county. Um, Applicants who receive these grants must be a governmental unit or a registered nonprofit, a C3, C4, C6. You could even be a cooperative. Um, Also, public-private partnerships are encouraged. The nonprofit in that relationship would be the applicant and the fiscal agent, but you can certainly, a nonprofit can partner with a for-profit entity. Um, you can only submit one application per organization per year. Uh, and an organization, an awardee can only receive an award every other year. That's something that the commissioners wanted to put in place just to be able to spread things as wide as possible. Um, and if you are a nonprofit, you must be in good standing with the IRS and the state of Oregon. Whoops. Sorry, that was jumping ahead there. A couple other rules here. No applicant can owe back taxes to Lincoln County. And we work with the county staff to verify all that stuff as far as eligibility and things like that. Organizations that currently receive budgeted and direct contracted funding from Lincoln County are ineligible. So I'm going to give some clarity here on what this means. Say you are something like Lincoln County Housing Authority and have a services contract with the county. A services contract or something like that, or if you're a consultant working for the county, is different from budgeted direct operational support from the county. For example, several chambers of commerce receive direct budgeted support. Several other organizations do. If you do receive those funds, you aren't eligible for this grant program. Um, the grant program is really focused around project work. It's not really focused on organizational support. It's providing you an opportunity to hopefully start something new or grow something bigger that you're already doing. But there are no allowed expenditures as far as things that are budgeted in your grant application until you receive the award letter. Um, and we'll kind of go over what the timeline and when all that stuff happens in a few. Um, for organizations that are, say, larger than Lincoln County, like you service, Lincoln County and Tillamook County, that's totally fine, but grant awards must be fully spent in Lincoln County for Lincoln County programs and results, or just think of Lincoln County benefit. Um, no grant funds can be used for operational or staffing expenses, but one sort of asterisk there is contractors are fine. Say you want to do a grant that helped uh, for businesses you work with create a website, and you wanted to hire a contractor to create the website for those four businesses. That contractor expense is absolutely allowable. Um, Also, and this generally isn't a problem because we're such small organizations in a small county, but the chief executive of the organization must endorse the application, must know about it. Obviously, some of these rules are here because for some reason and at some time something didn't quite go as planned, so that's there. Now I will turn it over to Sarah, who's going to talk through a little bit about the timeline. And hang on, let me flip the slide for you, Sarah.
Thank you, Paul. All right, so these grants are due by 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Monday, November 24th. So not next Monday, but the Monday after that. And they can be submitted online via the county's form system, which is linked on their site. And as Paul said at the end, we'll be putting all of those links in the chat so you guys can access the application and you can use the county's form system. As he said, if you have any difficulties with preparing your application or submitting it or anything that you need help with, please reach out to me or Paul. You can contact me at Sarah, S-A-R-A-H, at businesslincolncounty.com. It's in the chat. Or you can always call our EDALC office as well. If you have any issues, please contact us. And also, not for the people watching this live, but if you are watching the recording of this workshop, you have until that grant application deadline on the 24th to fill out the Google form in order to receive the partial bonus you get for watching the workshop after this live workshop. After that 24th deadline, the EDALC Board of Directors will review and score the grants in early January and will determine their combined scores and grant award recommendations at that meeting. After, Paul will present those recommendations that the board comes together with to the next available Board of Commissioners meeting for consideration at the earliest possible meeting. And then the Board of Commissioners will vote to approve the funding and the allocations, and then the county staff is then informed on their award decisions. And those county staff then make those notifications, and contracts are prepared for the awardees sometime in late February or March. A final report of the grant project's results in an income statement is required 1 year from when the dates are received. And those reports can be submitted online via the county's grant reporting portal. And the county also requires, if you receive these funds, that economic development grant projects display a county provided sign which says funded by Lincoln County's economic development grant program. And that's if the project is appropriate for a sign. Not, then it's not a requirement. And if you are chosen as a grant awardee, you will receive the reporting requirements, sign information, and all of that from the county staff when you are notified of your award. Back to you, Paul.
All right. And I hear a couple noises out there. If you're not muted, go ahead and mute yourself. One of the things that's kind of cool this year, the last couple of years, our grant pool has been $130,000 a year. This year, the county upped that to $185,000 for this year, which is pretty cool. So $85,000 of that goes into a pool for what we call standard grant projects. Those are projects with a maximum award amount of $15,000. They've been as small as 1,500. They've been all the way up to $15,000. In the past years, we've only had enough funding for one impact award. This year, we have a pool that will allow two larger scale $50,000 impact grants. These are for really trying to hit for the fences, do something spectacular. Um, and one of the things that is key to think about when you're thinking about your project is you want to make sure you right size your ask. You can only apply to one pool or the other. You can apply for a standard grant up to 15,000 max, or an impact grant, which is $50,000. And you could clearly apply for like $46,723.14 if you wanted to. That's cool. Um, and the other thing is with these grant things is the impact grant requires at least one letter of support. Obviously, multiple letters of support is good, but the smaller ones do not require a letter of support. And the impact grants at different times and in different years have had different little scoring bonuses, or if you're a gamer, buffs. I'm a gamer, so I use the gamer term. Uh, for this year's impact grants, the only scoring bonus is if your grant is in some way supporting additional child care in Lincoln County. That is a recognized priority of the commissioners. In the past, there was also broadband and housing, but this year it is only child care. And let's see where we're going next. Oh, and for those of you in attendance, you can ignore what I'm going to say, but right now, keyword one, pumpkin spice. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled grant. What that is basically the people who watch the video have to answer some questions on the keywords because we don't let them cheat. And they only get half the credit that you guys get for putting up with us for the entire time. So I just want to let you know what was going on. Okay, grant evaluation and scoring. Um, whoops. All right, it was rolling there. So, as I mentioned before, our staff is here to help you submit the best grant application possible. And upcoming, Sarah's going to give you some tips, and we're going to give you, you know, some perspectives on what we think our board of directors thinks are the most important thing. Um, our board scores the applications. We have a pretty good, refined system of spreadsheets, and things are weighted and all of that. Our board of directors takes this very, very seriously. They really dive into this. If you want to know who's scoring it, go to our website, businesslincolncounty.com, and click on the About Us page, and you can see our board of directors. That'll let you know if you need to like spin things one way or other. Um, there is a program overview document which you can access from the county's webpage. Um, and it's also, we're going to put all the links to all those docs in the chat when we're done here. But it goes over the scoring rubric. I'm also going to share my screen in a second and just kind of show you that document just so you kind of see what it looks like. And if there's one key takeaway I want to emphasize, it is economic development, economic development, economic development. All right, I'm going to quickly share and show you that document. Let's see, where is it? Right here. Um, and you can kind of see it's the Lincoln County Community and Economic Development Grant Program Overview. And I'm not going to read this whole thing. It talks about all the stuff that we've been talking about. Um, but it will let you know exactly what stuff you need to have for your application. And then starting at the bottom of page 2, it goes over the scoring criteria that our board of directors uses to score this grant. As far as local impact, uh, is it truly an economic development project? Community development is okay, but if you can show that there is actually economic development helping bring, additional funds, value, customers, what have you in, that's a bonus. If the project showcases some collaboration, again, there's scores there. If you have multiple funding partners, uh, that also helps with the scoring because I guess, one of the things that the commissioners really want to see with these dollars is leveraging as much as possible. You want to have a pretty darn solid budget, but it does not need to be overly complex. You can kind of see that you get a point bonus for if you attend the workshop. Now, the other thing that's kind of interesting is that if your project uh, provides services or impact or is focused on unincorporated areas in the county, that also becomes a bonus. And you can kind of see there's uh, the project is within municipal boundaries. It's basically within municipal boundaries or incorporated, unincorporated areas, or it's only in unincorporated areas, and just shows that the commissioners are wanting to sort of uh, share the wealth. And we'll get back to the presentation here and see where we're at. All right, it is time to turn it back over to Sarah, who's going to give you a roadmap to a better application once I actually share the thing. I forgot to push the actual share button. There we go.
We can only see your desktop screen. We cannot see the presentation.
Okay, well, then I'm going to stop sharing that because
It's a
probably
beautiful
saw a
desktop
really
photo,
cute
but
picture of my dog who's
it was the ocean, but
okay. Here we go.
all right.
All right, this time for sure.
All right. Roadmap to a better application. Thank you, Paul. So, in our list of links we will be sharing, and then also EDALC's grant resources webpage on our businesslincolncounty.com page, there is a whole sheet dedicated to tips on submitting the best application. There's also some other resources for writing grants, but I just wanted to highlight a few pointers that I think are especially relevant for this community and economic development grant. The first being to remember the quote, "We fund projects, not ideas." It's essential when you're developing your grant application here to break your project down into individual tasks and then assign each task a budget, deadline, person in charge, and how that task will be evaluated for its success. Doing this beforehand will not only help you determine if your project is appropriate for and ready for these grant funds, but it will also help make creating your budget and viability section of your application much easier. The commissioners really want these grants to go to projects that create and retain jobs or have economic value, as Paul said, but as well as community and economic development projects that address a specific need in the county. So in each, it's really essential to keep that need developing your project. At each phase, ask yourself, how does this task address the need or goal that we are presenting to the county? How does this task improve the county economically, socially, environmentally, culturally? All of those are good to keep in mind at each phase when you're developing your application. In addition, if you have any supporting data or reports regarding that need or the economic impacts that your project is seeking to address, you can attach those documents to the end of your application. Again, not a requirement, but if you have that, you can totally attach that as a PDF. Another thing that's important to keep in mind is that a good project description will tell the reviewers what, where, when, why, how, and how much, and this will be done very much in plain English. The grant reviewers should be able to understand your project description even if they've never heard of your organization before. And so really try to avoid industry or technical jargon. We live in acronym soup in economic development. So if possible, try to keep those out or at least explain them so it's easy for the reviewer to understand exactly what you're trying to say. It's possible. I always recommend to have someone from outside your organization proofread your project description just to make sure it's readable to the average person. And then also check in with them and ask them questions about the project and make sure they understand what you're trying to convey clearly. It's also really good to use concise and very strong language. There's a lot of information and a lot of really complex needs that you're trying to express in your project description, but there's a limited word count on it. So try to tell your organization's project and story in a way that captures the reviewer's attention and really uses that strong language. And then whenever you can, it's always good for economic development projects to use numbers and quantify your need and impact wherever you can. You know, words talk, numbers scream. And lastly, I would say on that point, triple check your numbers. Make sure your budget numbers align. If you have references to your budget or project costs referenced in any other section in your project description or anything like that, make sure those all line up. Again, if possible, have someone review your budget either internally in your organization or externally if you have somebody you can rely on for that kind of feedback. And just make sure that everything's accurate and that it adds up is very helpful. It's important to remember that these grants cannot be used for operations. So make sure each expense is directly related to a task necessary to reach your project's objectives. Your budget will be scored on its viability and its completeness. So really try to keep that in mind when you're putting it together and include any funding sources you have or are expecting or hoping to have for this project. Again, I encourage you to utilize the document that's on EDALC's page. It's grant writing tips. And there are also more resources on EDALC's webpage, including a resource list specifically for Oregon nonprofits to learn more for applying for grants. And as Paul said, he and I and our whole team is here to try to help you get the best application submitted possible. So please use us as a resource. Any questions you have or any needs you have, please just reach out to us. And keyword 2 is Pumpkinhead. Back to you, Paul.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Sarah. And one thing I wanted to emphasize that Sarah said um, is write your grant with the assumption that the reviewers don't know anything about your organization. You don't have to be overly verbose as far as like, here's a laundry list of what we've done in the last 35 years, but assume they don't know your organization and write it with from that perspective. Um, and for those of you who have applied for these grants in the past, you know there's been 8 million different ways you can apply, from old school paper grants to smart forms to a custom grant thing. Now we're using Form Center from the Civic Engage tools, which are on the county website. I'll point out a couple of things and then I'll show you what the application actually looks like. One of the cool things with this Form Center tool is you can log in and create an account with the county website and save your work. That is huge. It didn't used to be that way. That is absolutely huge. So you don't have to do all of this in one sitting. One of the things that I strongly recommend, and you probably do this anyway, but sometimes it's good just being a little obvious, is write your verbiage in a word processor first. And then the other thing I would do that is key is don't go with fancy formatting or anything like that because this is basically a text-based form. And if you're on a PC, you've got a text editor that comes with Windows called Notebook or Notepad. I think it's Notepad. On a Mac, it's TextEdit. My recommendation would be whatever text you have in your word processor, copy it and paste it in that text editor first. That will strip out all formatting, font stuff, and make it as clear as possible. Then copy it from that text editor and paste it into the grant application. Um, your budget should be put together in a spreadsheet, and it doesn't matter what spreadsheet program, but you want to export it as a PDF. And I want to show you something here before we get going. We have a grant mascot. That is Maisel. She's saying hi to you all. All right, Maisel, go do dog things. Um, so make sure that the budget is exported as a PDF. Your letters of support, if you've got more than one, stick them together in one PDF. It makes it a lot easier to assemble things. And now I will get you a peek at the actual site. I'm going to stop sharing here. All right, hold on. Boink. And then I will. I'm working on two monitors here, so I had to find my mouse here. And where is it? Right here. Okay, so what you're looking at is the form center in the county's website, and basically, if you go to the application links from any of the pages, uh, it'll prompt you. It'll either take you to a login or prompt you to create an account, and then once you do that, you will go to this. It's a very simple thing. You can see there's a Save Progress button. You've got your basic organizational information, the person completing the form, um, naming your project, the total project budget, the amount you're requesting from this particular program, where in Lincoln County this is happening, which pool of funds you're applying to, and here's where you would paste in your project description, a description or a narrative of the different funding you have coming in, any collaboration that you've got going on. Um, Viability, it's basically what are your key performance indicators to help you know that this project had impact? When do you desire it to start and end? And let's just say that given the timeline with the county, it's probably not going to be something that you can start before March 1st, given the time it's going to take. And you can see where you can upload your budget documents and letters of support. At the very end, they have you putting in the name of your chief executive, title, their email, and the tax ID number. And then you have a drop down here of which type of applicant organization. And you can type in your email address uh, if you want to receive an email version of that. And basically, what happens after that gets submitted, once the grant period is done, our staff goes through working with county staff and validating things like any outstanding taxes, good standing with the IRS, when were you awarded last year or not last year, do you get contracted funding, things like that. And then we'll assemble everything together into a single PDF per applicant with the letters, the budgets, all of that stuff, and then get that into our scoring packet off to our um, board. And I guess I would say right now, I mean, we plowed through a lot of stuff pretty darn quickly. One of the things I'm going to do right now is stick in the chat links to, hold on, my
I
dog
gotta
is,
load it up. I can send it in.
you got it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, yep. Sarah's got that in there. So now is our time. We've gave you a lot of information super fast. But everything is supported by documents that you could look at. We're here to answer questions at any time, but I would just say right now, does anyone have any questions? And if so,
I have one question.
okay, sure.
Um, you mentioned the priority for this year is supporting childcare. Could you give a little bit more information about what supporting means for the county? And like in what aspects?
Um, like for an example is several chambers of commerce, like Walport Chamber of Commerce, Toledo Chamber of Commerce, Yachats Chamber of Commerce, get budgeted funding allocated every year to the county to help them with their operations. And that means that they're getting supported funding, so they aren't eligible. They used to be eligible for this grant program, but they are no longer eligible. Uh, I do see a question in chat also about a word limit for this project description. Um, Generally, what we're looking at is for the project description, no more than 500 words. Other things keep it under 250 words. We used to, in a past online thing, actually be able to have word counts in the form, but the Form Center does not do that. So we're asking you guys to be pretty honest. Basically, be concise. Any other questions? Dan, I'm looking at you. Be concise.
Could I circle back and just get a little bit more clarification on the childcare?
Sure.
Um, for supporting, would that mean like opening a new childcare center, materials? I know you said no salaries or anything. I know that we're in a childcare desert right now, so there is a big need.
Okay, so here's and this is outlined in the program overview document, but I'll tell you what it says, and it hopefully will answer the question. Projects should demonstrate a measurable impact by an increased number of childcare slots available for Lincoln County working parents. Is that clear or is that less clear?
That's more clear. And that was
Okay.
in the description you said?
It's in the program overview document.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Billy Joe. And I think you're
There
muted.
we go. Now I can talk. Okay. Yeah, I've got a couple. Uh, we'll be applying for Lincoln County Water Systems Alliance,
Okay.
which is a coalition of the cities, the county, the tribe, water districts, and a couple of environmental organizations. So it's all these people working together on a 50-year plan for water supply for all of Lincoln County. So it's got a lot of economic impacts, and it's begun. Uh, so I've got questions about it. One of the first ones is when we apply for this funding. Right now, we are not a non-governmental entity. That we will be eventually, probably once they get an IGA that goes to the Secretary of State.
Yep.
That has not happened yet. The cities and others have joined by uh, a resolution and there is a bylaws thing drawn up and all that. So my question is, as an organization, how do we say who we are? I have been talking with Tyler Klaus from the Soil and Water Conservation District, and they are going to serve as a financial agent, and definitely support it. The actual 50-year plan and this group as the leadership was designated in the action plan from the Mid-Coast Water Planning Partnership as well. So we've got those umbrellas to deal with as well. So do I want to name our fiscal agent organization as the actual organization this is coming from, or
I,
should we just call it us? I don't know.
I would say, since you aren't yet a thing, whether you become like an ORS 190 or what, I would say who handles the money should be the applicant because there will be a contract with the county, and maybe name your project description, your coalition plus your project name.
Okay.
And then give it a sentence or two explaining that you don't. I think it's pretty clear that you're working with a lot of collaborators, but since you have a fiscal agent, have that be your applicant.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if that wouldn't be a good thing. And then the chief executive officer that you name would be the head of that fiscal agency, right?
Yes, yes, because
Okay.
they're next on the line for the money stuff.
Okay, okay. Well, it's just, kind of all over the place, but it's focused and moving. So thank you. That really clarifies that for me.
Our pleasure. Dan, you get the big Mickey Mouse hand up.
I can get it down. Just let me work on it. There we go.
All right, I'll lower mine as well. Okay, I'll try to be concise. I've got two pretty nuanced questions. Number one is kind of the difference between a 1099 and a W-2. When we say that we can't fund staffing, what about hiring a temporary staff member to accomplish a specific aspect of the grant activities versus hiring a contractor?
If if you're reporting that person through a 1099, if it's over 600 bucks, that's acceptable. That is not a so if it's a W-2, it would be considered staffing, but if it's a 1099 for the purpose of the grant, that's a contractor.
So 1099s only.
Yep.
Okay. Part two would be regarding the exclusion for applicants who had received an award in the previous year. If there were two organizations where one was a supporting organization for the other, but the new organization had a separate and distinct tax ID and EIN number, is that considered a previous award?
No, because it's a separate tax ID number, separate organization, and I kind of get what you're talking at. And if you have what you're talking about, Dan, and if you want to have any questions offline on this, but if it's the community, if it's the
Transparency, total transparency.
yeah, if it's the foundation as the applicant and is managing the money, that's totally cool because they were
Right.
not an applicant last year or an awardee. Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Going once, going twice.
Sorry, I'm not seeing my raise my hand feature.
Okay.
Can I just hop in and ask a
Yep,
question?
yes, you can.
I've been kind of pulling up some of those links that y'all shared, and it's saying I noticed that on what document at the eligibility and requirements, it's indicating that up to a third of it will be allocated for community development projects versus the economic development. And I'm wondering if how that's going to be distributed. Does that mean that potentially one of the impact grants could be allocated to a more community development focused project, or is it going to look like the smaller standard grants?
And that's an interesting question because it sort of fits into what the scoring folks think about the strength of the applications. The other thing is that uh, almost anything that's community development can probably be described in such a way to show economic benefit to the area. And I guess I would say for all applications, whether you think of it as more community development or economic development, have that language to show how that is supporting and enhancing the general overall economic vitality of Lincoln County. So that was a non-answer, but hopefully the clues to navigate through those obstacles.
Yeah, absolutely. Can I ask one other question that I'm not seeing on here? Um, I see very clearly no personnel benefits supplies. I don't see anything that's talking about capital expenses whatsoever. Can you talk about any other limitations to what the funds can be used for?
Stuff
Um,
and things are cool.
okay.
Let's see, I'm looking. There's a question in the chat. My organization was fiscally sponsored by another nonprofit last year, and they received a grant for us, but we are now our own 50c6. Uh, yes, you can apply for your own. Yes, you have graduated to your own thing. You can do that. Congratulations. Welcome to the world of additional paperwork. Anyone else? All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, don't think that we're not here for you after this workshop. If you're working on something and have some questions, best way to get in touch with Sarah and myself is via email because we're all over the place, but we will get back to you very quickly. And sometimes there are questions that we don't know the answer to, but we will find out the answer. I was expecting Dan to shoot some questions that way because that's how he rolls. But he did it. I was able to answer his questions. I felt pretty good. Thank you so much. Okay, we will also send out a link to this recording once we get everything together, and we'll post it up on the grant webpage and our website and Facebook. Um, and wahoo on being able to save your work. Yes, Lucinda, that is we have firmly entered the early 90s, so that's cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, and reach out if you have any questions, and have a great rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon. Good luck with your grant applications. See y'all.